Even though Equinox lost the poll against Limbo, she has a very dedicated fanbase, because people who wanted me to review Equinox really wanted me to review Equinox, to a point where they started giving her to me as gifts on stream in the hopes that I would review her. So I now have 4 Equinoxes, and honestly I don't know what to do with them. So let's finally check her out, shall we? So first up, to get Equinox, you will have to farm her parts from Tilregor, which is the Uranus boss fight. Now for most people, this is going to be one hell of a grind, because you essentially have to farm 2 different Warframes from Tilregor to create Equinox. You have to get the day aspect, systems, neuroptics and chassis, and the night aspect, systems, neuroptics and chassis. Then you have to build those day and night aspects, and then you combine them to create Equinox. And in the beginning, this is kind of fine because you're just getting random parts, but getting that one final part when Tilregor can reward you with so many different pieces of Equinox is kind of a nightmare. I honestly think it would be a better idea if Titania had sort of a day and night aspect like there is on Earth, and during the day he would drop the day parts and during the night he would drop the night parts. Now once you build Equinox, you will get a Warframe that has 100 health and shields, which both go up to 300 at rank 30 and 100 armor, which is pretty good for a caster frame. She has 150 power, which goes up to 225 at rank 30, and she is very fast with sprint speed of 1.15. And finally, she has 3 polarities, a D, a V, and a dash in the aura slot. Now Equinox is kind of unique because if you count her Metamorphosis as 2 different abilities, she has 8 abilities in total. And before we take a more in-depth look at them, I just want to say that all the augments for her abilities can be obtained by either reaching the rank of Maxim under the Arbiters of Hexes or the rank of Flawless under New Loka, and they cost 25,000 standing each. Actually, one more thing before we take a look at her abilities. Let's talk about her passive ability called Equilibrium. And yes, it is the same as the mod Equilibrium that we have in the game. So whenever you pick up a health orb, it will convert 10% of the health you get from the health orb into energy. And when you pick up an energy orb, it will convert 10% of the energy you get from the energy orb into health. And yes, it does stack with Equilibrium. So Equinox's first ability is called Metamorphosis, and this will switch her from her day aspect to her night aspect and vice versa. Now, a little fun fact here, you can actually choose the aspect you start in by changing your energy color. Bright energy colors will start you in the day aspect, and dark energy colors will start you in the night aspect. Now, there is a little delay when switching from day to night or night to day, where Equinox will be whole for a second. You will see this based on her head. She will have both her horns, and then she will switch to the other aspect. Changing aspects will morph her other 3 abilities, because each ability has a day and a night version. On top of that, changing forms will grant you a 25-second buff, which can be extended by power duration, and the buff is different based on the form you morph into. So if you change into day form, you will get 25% bonus weapon damage and 15% bonus movement speed. These buffs will decay over time, and they are affected by power strength. And if you change into night form, you will get 250 bonus armor and 150 bonus shields. These bonuses once again decay over time, and they are affected by power strength. It's also important to say that when you change aspects, all the abilities that you had active will be deactivated, and all the buffs you receive from these abilities will be instantly dispelled. The augment for Metamorphosis is called Duality, where if you change aspects, the other half of you, which you just changed out of, will break free for 7 seconds and will just run around with your currently equipped weapon, dealing 300% damage. The duration of this spectral, let's just call it, is affected by power duration, and the damage output is affected by power strength. Now, this can be both really good and also really bad, because it relies on the AI, which at times is really dumb. So don't be surprised to see your Spectre just stand there for the entire duration and not do anything, but most of the time, I must say, it tries to shoot things, even though sometimes those things are behind a wall and it can't really hit them. Equinox's second ability is called Rest and Rage, and this does different things based on the form you are in. Now, before I talk about the different variations of this ability, I just want to say that you can cast it up to 50 meters away, and it will create a 5-meter AoE that will affect enemies inside that AoE for 22 seconds. The duration is affected by power duration, and the range at which you can cast it and the AoE you create by using this ability are both affected by power range. So the night version of this ability, Rest, which you're watching right now, will put enemies to sleep. The enemies will wake up if they lose more than 50% of their health or if the ability duration runs out. Now, while the enemies are asleep, you can perform stealth finishes on them, which is of course very powerful, because when you do a stealth finisher, you will do 800% extra damage on top of weapon multiplier. So if you're using a dagger, dual dagger, polearm, or a staff, you will get 300% extra damage on top of that. If you're using a hammer, you will get 600% extra damage on top of that. And if you're using any other melee weapon, you will get 400% extra damage on top of that. And let's not forget Covert Lethality, because if you equip Covert Lethality on your dagger and you get a finisher off on an enemy, it will one-shot them regardless of their health, armor, or shields. And one more thing before we move on to the day version of this ability is that if an enemy is alerted and you put them to sleep, they will still be alerted. So if you kill them, you will not get a stealth kill affinity bonus from them. The day version of this ability, called Rage, will enrage the enemies, increasing their movement speed and melee attack speed by 20%, but they will take 50% more damage for the duration of the ability. The increased damage the enemies take, the movement speed bonus, and the melee attack speed bonus are all affected by power strength, so it works kind of like Nova's Molecular Prime if you mod for negative power strength. The augment for Calm and Frenzy is called Rest and Rage, where killing an enemy affected by either Rest or Rage will pulse a small 5-meter AoE that will spread either Rest or Rage to all enemies hit by it for the remaining duration of Rest and Rage on the enemy that you've killed. Now, one thing I found out about this augment is that it works perfectly fine if you just straight up kill the enemy, but if you use a melee finisher on them, it only works about 5% of the time, unfortunately. So I would not recommend this augment if you want to run around, put enemies to sleep with Rest, and then do a finisher on them. It just doesn't work. But if you want to run around and slide attack through the enemies, or you just want to shoot them in the face, it works perfectly fine. Equinox's third ability is called Pacify and Provoke, where Equinox emits a 16-meter aura that will do different things depending on the form you are in. Now, this is a toggle ability that doesn't really drain any energy by default. You can increase the radius of the aura by adding power range mods, and you can see the radius of the aura by little strings of energy that are floating around Equinox. But it's kind of odd because in this footage I have maxed out power range and the strings look like they're just orbiting right around me, so I don't know what's up with that. So the night version of this ability will emit a crippling aura that will reduce enemy damage by 50%, and this is relative to how close they are to Equinox. So the closer they are, the less damage they're gonna do. But it is also affected by power strength. Now, for every enemy inside the aura, it will drain 0.5 energy every second. Now, the energy drain is not affected by power duration, it's only affected by power efficiency. And it also doesn't deactivate energy generation, so if you're using the energy siphon aura, it will keep giving you energy. And the same goes for energy restores, energy orbs, Trinity's energy vampire, or Limbo's rift plane. The day version of this ability will emit an empowering aura that will grant Equinox and her allies 20% bonus power strength. Now, the power strength bonus from this aura is affected by power strength, but cannot exceed 50% unless you are using the augment for this ability, which I will talk about later. Now, as is to be expected, your allies will only get the power strength bonus if they are standing within the aura, and for every ability used within the aura, it will drain 3 energy from you. And this is once again only affected by power efficiency, not power duration, and it does not deactivate energy generation. And as I said in the beginning, when you have the ability active and you change from day to night form or vice versa, it will deactivate the ability. However, if you're changing from day to night and you have the ability active, the bonus power strength will be applied to the buff you get when you change into night form, resulting in higher armor and shield bonus. The augment for Pacify and Provoke is called Peaceful Provocation, which does different things depending on which version of the ability you're using. So if you're using the night version, which is Pacify, it will convert damage done to you and your allies into an aura that will slow enemies down by up to 40%. Now, the 40% cap can be pushed further by adding more power strength, which is actually pretty good, because this can slow enemies down quite a lot. And if you're using the day version, which is Provoke, it will convert damage done to enemies into 15% extra power strength, which you can once again increase with more power strength. And this is what allows you to bypass the 50% bonus power strength cap on Provoke. And I think it's pretty obvious that the bonuses from Peaceful Provocation only apply within the aura radius. And Equinox's fourth and final ability is called Mend and Maim, where she surrounds herself with an 18-meter aura that once again does different things depending on which form you are in. The aura radius can be increased with power range mods, and it will drain 3.5 energy every second while it's active. Now, this ability also has an activation cost, which is 50 energy by default, which is only affected by power efficiency. And the energy drain can be reduced by using power efficiency and power duration, where power efficiency has much more noticeable effect, but power duration still has a pretty big effect, especially if you mod for negative power duration, which will increase the energy drain by quite a bit. Now, while the aura is active, it will deactivate energy generation from Energy Siphon and the Zenuric passive, as well as energy restores. So the only way to get energy is by picking up energy orbs, being in Limbo's Rift Plane, or being hit by Trinity's Energy Vampire. Which is actually kind of unique because not too many abilities that have energy drain allow you to gain energy from Trinity's Energy Vampire while they are active. Now the Knight version of this ability, which you're watching right now and is called Mend, will accumulate 75% of the maximum shields and health of each enemy killed within the aura. And this is not affected by power strain. Once you deactivate the aura, it will take all the accumulated shields and health and will create a burst heal that will restore the health and shields of you and your allies. Now this does prioritize health over shields, so it will not restore your shields if your health is not full, and it will redistribute the accumulated health and shields equally between all allies. Now one really good thing about this is that it can heal specters, which is okay, hostages, which is pretty good, but also companions, so you can use it to heal your sentinels. And I guess you can use it to heal your Kubros and Gavats, but overall they are much easier to heal than something like a carrier. And I should also say that this does not create overshield, so if you accumulate a lot of health and shields by killing enemies inside the aura, any excess health or shields will be effectively lost. And the day version of this ability, which is called Maim, will deal 150 slash damage with 100% status chance to all enemies inside the aura. And the slash damage is the only thing from the entire ability that is affected by power strength. Now this version of the ability, just like the Knight version of this ability, will accumulate 75% of the maximum shields and health of each enemy kill in the aura. But this time around, when you deactivate the ability, it will take all the accumulated health and shields and it will split it equally as a burst of slash damage that hits every enemy inside the aura. This can do a scary amount of damage, especially if you're running something like Stufla on Loa, which is a pretty small tile set, and you have maxed out power range. And it doesn't even matter if you have overextended, because the burst damage is not affected by power strength. You can very easily accumulate 30, 40 or even 50,000 damage and then just kill everything on the map. And I almost forgot something, so when the enemies are first hit by the aura, they will be temporarily stunned, which is pretty useful as well. So we come to the conclusion, would I recommend Equinox or not? Yes, a big fat yes. This frame is really fun. She has a ton of variety. You can play her in so many different ways. She's just awesome, and I really regret not giving her a shot earlier. I've been playing her all week and I've tried so many different builds and I've tried all the augments because they are so good. They add so much variety to this Warframe that already has a ton of variety. I love it. 10 out of 10. Go get Equinox, even though she's a pain in the arse to farm. And that's pretty much it for the video, so I thank you very much for watching as always, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.